So, this is one of the first videos I think it's the fourth video, whatever it is, on this channel that isn't primarily to do with football. Um, but it's stuff that I wanted to talk about on here to sort of try and help you guys know, to get to know me a little bit better personally. And there's a few things I've wanted to talk, and I've debated in my head for quite some time whether or not to talk about this. But I feel like I want to put it out there, and I feel it's important to put it out there. There's a number of things I'm going to talk about. So obviously, you know me, mostly what I've done is talk about Sunderland, rant and rave and so on, because Sunderland, quite frankly, give me plenty of opportunities to talk, to rant and rave, because we lose almost every week. But this is besides football. This is about life, and this is sort of about some of the things that, well, let's just I tell you what, I'm mumbling off, so let's just jump into it. So 4th of December 2016, when this goes up, will have been the 10th year anniversary since my mum sadly passed away 10 years ago from cancer to the appendix, I believe it was, which apparently is a rare form of cancer. So just her luck, eh? I'm putting this up more to mention the fact it's out of tribute to her and respect to her, because um, I'm not going to mention too much about me family, because I think I want to respect them and keep that relatively confidential. But my mum, her name was Catherine Jane Bowers, and she was one of the nicest people I can remember. And to be brutally honest, I was a pretty terrible son towards her at the worst of times. I was a spoilt brat at the worst of times. I didn't appreciate what I had. Um, there was one occasion I remember I tried to trip my mum up, actually deliberately, when she didn't give us what I wanted, and I hated that. I still regret that to this very day. Um, I did make it clear in some respects that I did love her, and I still obviously miss her immensely. It's still very difficult because I'm looking at other people, with parents and whatnot, and I look at other people with parents, and it just makes me think, well, where's mine? You know, um, and I don't mean that in a selfish way. I mean, obviously, to some extent, I'm glad other people have, other people who have lost parents that they were close to knows it's very difficult. And there is the saying that it gets easier over time, but it never gets completely easy, and it never ever did for me. It's easier, obviously, much easier, considering it happened 10 years ago. But I will never ever forget this. It was at Gateshead Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and one night my uncle was up. I used to live at the Broadway near the seafront, actually, until about 5, 6 years. I think it was about 7, 8 years ago. And he came up to visit and asked me if I wanted to go and see my mum. Naturally, I was 15 at the time. I didn't know any better. I wasn't even aware she'd be going into hospital for visits, a couple of times in the months before she passed away, before she died. But I didn't think of anything of it. I didn't think she had cancer. I didn't think she was at a terminal illness or anything like that. I didn't. I wasn't under the illusion. I didn't have any reason to think that. So naturally, I thought, well, yeah. To me, it was just going to be another visit, and hopefully, I'd get to see her, and so on and so forth. I then got asked. Well, I got told along the way. I got asked by my uncle if he wanted to be on, if I wanted him to be honest with me, to which I said yes. And he said my mum mightn't last very long. Now, at first instance, I thought he was joking. My brain couldn't comprehend that idea. Um, and it just didn't occur to me that that was actually happening. Um, Quickly became apparent, however, he wasn't joking, and we tried to go from the Broadway to Queen Elizabeth Hospital, um, as quick as possible. And at that point, when we finally got there, it turns out we were about 10, 15 minutes too late. She died. She'd passed away. And it was precisely 7:10 on the 4th of December 2006. Afterwards, a friend of mine at the time and my uncle were sat crying in front of me, and I didn't. And I was too upset to cry. Um, sorry. I'd never been in that situation before. It had never occurred to me to feel upset. Well, not to feel upset, because obviously I was upset, but I was devastated. But it was hard. But I didn't cry because I wasn't used to that situation. I'd never been in that situation before, and I just didn't. It was just thrust upon us. Like, it was just. I think I was too much in a state of shock, or too much, not in denial, but in too much awe, overwhelmed by it. That's the best word. I was overwhelmed by the whole situation, and I requested to see my mum dead. I requested to see her body, and I remember we saw that we walked into the room where she'd passed away in, and her eyes were half open, her mouth was half open, and she was just, it was just lifeless. Her skin was pale, and so on, and it was hard. That's not particularly the last image I wanted to have of her, but I definitely remember at the time we were arranging her funeral. My aunt and uncle were up here, and I got asked if I wanted to see the coffin open or closed, and I definitely wanted it closed because I couldn't bear to look at her and know there's no life in her left. Now, I don't remember her by that, obviously, but when I do think about it, it's hard not to think that way. It's hard not to think, crap, she's gone. I mean, I've come to terms with it long ago. I've accepted it, but it doesn't get any easier. I mean, it does get easier to a point, but it's never going to be completely easy. And I'm grateful for the amount of people in my life that care for me. I am so, so grateful for it, but they're not the same, And I feel horrible saying that. I really do, but it's truth, But I'll remember her though for the fact that she was one of the kindest women I'd ever met. Well, obviously, I might be saying that from a biased, subjective point of view because she's my mum, but I definitely think she's definitely one of the kindest people I can remember, and she definitely deserved a lot better than she got. My dad was rarely around for me as a kid, and he didn't treat me, from what I remember, I think from what I was told, he didn't treat me mum particularly great. But I don't, and I've got asked a couple of times, do I want to, go into contact with him? And to me, no, because I'm happy enough with what's going on in my life at the minute, and for him to be there would just complicate it too much for me. I've got to the point where I'm moving on, and I think that would sort of bring me back a bit too much, and that's an interesting thing. But I will say this for the last bit on this section of the video. Rest in peace forever, Catherine Jane Bowers. You were a great mum to me, and she had a disabled mum to look after. She had me, a child with autism, to look after, and she had to work. She had to do all sorts of things. We didn't have the best living environments, and she I feel immensely proud of everything she did, and I didn't express it often enough, and I wish I'd been a better son towards her. I really do. Can't change it, but but thankfully, I believe there is. I won't get too religious, but I do believe there's a God. I do believe. I'm not to the point where I'm full on blown Christian or anything, but I do believe there's an afterlife. I do believe that there's heaven, and I believe she's up there, having a blast with with the majority of our family members, and hopefully she's smiling down on me. So I know she's in here, and it's cliched, but it's true. So rest in peace, Captain Jibaz. You have no idea how much I love you. Thank you for raising me up to be the way I am. It's been a privilege to be your son, and I still obviously always am going to be your son. But yeah. Anyway,